Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is June 15th, 2019. I am sorry this episode didn't post yesterday like it was supposed to. I just got back in last night from a family road trip. It was, for those of you who saw my little beach update, it was fun. I had a good time. But something happened last minute that it's kind of personal. I really don't want to go into details right now, but it would mean a lot. I wouldn't ask this if it wasn't a serious situation, but it'd mean a lot if I can get your guys' support. Like I said, I don't want to bum you guys out with my issues. So I wouldn't bring this up if it wasn't bad. It's looking like, for those of you who may be wondering, it looks like it's a situation I could fight pretty easily, but it's it hurts like hell. And I was really too emotional to try to scrounge up what I meant for this episode in order to make sure it posted last night, so I'm going to make it up to you. Give it to you tonight after a quick commercial break. Then the show's intro starts playing up, so stick with me, guys. I could really use your help on through this. Just know that having you guys support what I do does mean a lot. I do try to get back to you guys as much as I can, but I'm only a one-man circus. There's only so much I can do. So anyway, like I said, let's just get on with the show. Let's get our minds off the nasty stuff. Okay, well, that's probably a poor choice of words considering tonight's topic, but you'll find out more soon enough. So stick around. You're going to want to hear this. And also, if you hear a heavy machine blowing in the background, I do apologize. That's the air conditioner. It's just fucking hot right now. So, work with me on that too, okay? That's all I'm asking. I'll try to see if I can't put in maybe some nice little background noise to try to drown that out a little bit, but as always, stick with me. I'll always try to help you guys out as much as I can. If you ever come to me for help, right now I just need your guys' support. I don't need you guys to do anything. Just happy thoughts. Let's keep happy thoughts going. So anyway, I'll shut up. Let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, Dakota Frandsen here, Specialist of the Strange. I just wanted to come with you real quick about potentially doing your own podcast. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Maybe you got a lot of questions like, how do I record? How do I get my show into all these apps that are out there? How can I make money? There are probably several thousand other questions about getting this show off the ground that you have been formulating and communicating in your mind. And I'm here to tell you that there is a very simple answer to this. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your show. And best of all, it is 100% free. Get all the perks from the other guys without having to pay for subscription fees. And best of all, it is easy. And in fact, Anchor can match you up with sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast right now, which means you can get paid doing what you love. Isn't that the fucking dream, my friends? In fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do right now by reading this ad for you. It is amazing. It helps ease the process for guests, putting on music, whatever you want to do. So if you want to start your podcast, make some money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and several other fabulous people already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. And I cannot wait to hear you on the air. And we're back. My name is Dakota Frandsen and welcome to Specialist of the Strange Radio Show. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the real, live Men in Black. Why? Because, well, Men in Black International released yesterday, and I thought it would be a fun little addition. A fun topic to talk about for tonight's episode. So, what are we going to do about the Men in Black? We're going to discuss theories on what they are, what they want, what they're willing to do, and are they the friendly, goofy types we see in the movies? Stick around because you're going to want to hear this. This is a very interesting topic. Are they government agents? Are they a region so high up they have no authority over them? Are they aliens from another world? There's so much to really talk about, so let's dig into it! Now, besides movies, did you know that the Men in Black also managed to make pop culture appearances in comic books published by Malibu Comics? I did not know this at first. I thought it was kind of interesting. But we're not here to talk about movies. We're not here to talk about comics. We're here to talk about the real fucking freaky shit. So according to an article published by History Channel, this article is written by a gentleman named Justin Sablick. It's kind of a brief history on Men in Black sightings. In the article, it states that some of the earliest encounters with these mysterious beings can possibly be traced back to a single date. June 27th, 1947. Had Men in Black waited a couple more weeks to release, that would be kind of interesting timing. Anyway. So anyway, the very first story of the Men in Black goes... It takes place in the area of Puget Sound in Washington, here in the United States. A gentleman named Harold Dahl was on a conservation mission when he claimed to see 6 donut-shaped obstacles hovering about half a mile above his boat. Before long, one of them fell near the 1,500 feet, followed by raining metallic debris, some of which hit Harold Dahl's son Charles on his arm, as well as the family dog, who didn't survive. Poor puppy. Dahl was able to take some pictures of the aircraft with his camera, which he later showed to his supervisor, Fred Chrisman. A skeptical Chrisman went back to the scene to look for himself and saw a strange aircraft with his own eyes. The following morning, Dahl was visited by a man in a black suit. They end up at a local diner, where the man was able to recount in extraordinary detail about everything Dahl had witnessed, without him having actually gone to anybody to report to his story, not going to any media outlets, nothing. It is according to a book by Gray Barker, published in 1956, titled "They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers." The man stated, "What I have said is proof to you that I know a great deal more about this experience of yours than you will want to believe." Dahl was told never to speak of this incident. If he did, bad things would happen. Now, of course, the story obviously leaked out and became a part of popular conspiracy theories. The U.S. government deemed it a hoax after Dahl and Crimson later allegedly admitted to it. But that seems to be part of their whole deal. I want to go into this a bit more. Now, the article I'm referencing on History.com goes to state that how do we go from mysterious man that appears out of nowhere for a UFO sighting to essentially how the Men in Black are portrayed in the Will Smith movies. This is the progression of how myths can evolve. I want to go into a little bit of detail about this later on in the show. About 3 days later, after the initial sighting, a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Arnold had a UFO sighting of his own near Mount Rainier, Washington. He was a pilot. Pilots have been known to report all sorts of weird flying shit that air control towers have often mocked, so not a lot of them make the mainstream reports. Maybe that'll change with the recent announcements that the Pentagon had been somewhat investigating UFO phenomenon. Going back to Dahl, Harold Dahl, the personal thing I mentioned earlier is really bringing out my stutter, so work with me here. The report states that Dahl and Crimson actually reached out to a Chicago magazine in order to try to sell their story. The magazine editor contacted Kenneth Arnold, hoping he would help verify their account by talking about his own experience. Arnold then summoned 2 officers of Army A2 intelligence to aid in the investigation of Dahl and Crimson's claim. So here we have that the military themselves have been looking into this. In July, the following July, those two Army intelligence officers came to investigate. After leaving the next day, the plane caught fire, crashed, and killed both officers. The story itself did not really take off until 1956 when the book I mentioned was released. It was also in this book that the author was able to make the connection to the man who wore the black suit to another encounter in 1953 by Albert K. Bender, who claimed he was visited by three men in similar attire, a popular book on the real-life Men in Black is actually published by ufologist Nick Redfern, who has also done a few TV specials. Off the top of my head, I do believe he did appear on Ancient Aliens at one point. Where he goes to more in-depth about the Men in Black phenomenon. Several more stories that have much more grim details have been released since. Basically, the general consensus right now is if you see a UFO, then all of a sudden you're being contacted by mysterious men in suits, or what look like men in suits. Chances are you saw the real deal, brother. So we're going to talk about more about these guys later on. We're going to bring up a few more interesting incidents that I find. Yeah, I do apologize if it does kind of feel like I'm reading off a script. I'm having to scramble up my notes because, like I said, I thought this episode would have posted early. So I made the mistake of deleting everything I had on my end to make room for the next. I'm sorry, but work with me! It's been a tough couple weeks, and I love you all for it. Now, for the sake of keeping time on this episode, I have compiled a sort of what's the word for it here? I've compiled a description due to the various number of sightings. Now, what makes these things interesting is that nearly every account, the descriptions of the Men in Black almost never change. For starters, in their physical appearance, they appear as male subjects, about 6 feet tall, bald, large eyes, large, almost hypnotic eyes, I should add. No real lips, just a tiny slit for a mouth. No signs of hair anywhere on their body. Robotic movements. Then, of course, there's the infamous black suits, black trench coats, black fedoras, black shoes. Another interesting notion is that whenever they appear, all of their clothes appear magazine level clean and neat, like they have never been worn. They just they look like, they don't even look like they've been worn at all, or even put on, as a matter of fact. They look like what you would expect to see on mannequins. In some accounts, they claim that they're a sign of cosmetic products to cover up any blemishes and to potentially make them look more human. When approached, nearly everyone near them gets this uneasy feeling. Some sources have claimed that this feeling they get can be comparable to old encounters and meeting Lucifer. Their vehicles, black sedan-esque models, newer models as a matter of fact, that also look magazine level new, like they've never been driven, like they've never moved at all, fresh out of the fucking car factory neat. But that's just their physical appearance. They also seem to possess interesting abilities. They seem to possess the ability to manipulate matter at their will. Some have claimed that they were able to make objects disappear, objects melt at will. And when they showcase these abilities, it's an intimidation factor. Basically, their way of saying, haha, we can do this to that inanimate object right there. We just did that to that inanimate object. Just imagine what we could do to you. They also seem to be able to completely appear and disappear in an instant. Could they just be really good magicians? Maybe. Some people claim to have seen a sort of black mist-esque thing appear whenever they disappear. Like they managed to open some sort of portal to quickly escape. Now sometimes they don't even go that far. In some accounts, one interesting one that comes to mind happens to be famous ghost buster and ufologist Dan Aykroyd, who was trying to publish a reality show on the UFO phenomenon, but was confronted by a possible MIB Men in Black subject. It should also be noticed that sometimes they also wear large rimmed sunglasses to try to cover their eyes. And some of the cosmetic products, I should mention lipstick and false eyelashes. In Dan Aykroyd's account, they simply appeared in their vehicle in front of him one day while he was out and about, getting ready to sign the deals to bring his show to life, stepped out of his vehicle and just looked at him. And that look was enough to get Aykroyd to completely shut down the operation in fear of his own life. Certain accounts from the Men in Black have involved the use of guns, where one man who had seen UFOs with his son His son was later shot and claimed that a man in a black fedora, wearing a black suit with no distinguishable features whatsoever, was the one who pulled the trigger. Only to later change the story, which seems to be another common factor. Witnesses changing their accounts, especially after some sort of freak incident. Now, as for who or what they are, there have been several theories posted. Time travelers. They simply utilize a suit and a man-like appearance, because if you look through any period within human history, showing up in a suit and tie is a timeless look. Nearly every period within recent human history, up to the Old West even, suit and tie is common. Hasn't really changed at all. There are some have suggested they are some sort of branch of the Air Force. That Donald Trump, essentially, if this is true, Donald Trump is way behind on publishing his ideas for a space force. It has also been stated that in some encounters with the Men in Black, they have claimed to be from the Air Force. And that some facilities like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Area 51, areas with high security, have also had Men in Black involvement. Some people have tried saying that the Men in Black are not human at all. Some have claimed that they were some sort of sophisticated machines. Some have claimed that they were human alien hybrid, or just flat out alien because of their appearance. Another common theme I've noticed in quite a few reports, and I've noticed this comes up when they decide to make an appearance at a private residence. They ask for a microwave oven to be unplugged, or they just simply keep their distance from it. That's another interesting one that I feel should be brought up, because maybe it could be a last line of defense if you ever have one show up at your doorstep. Now, why am I deciding to skip straight to the descriptions? Because I want to try to analyze some of these stories, the possibilities behind them. And if you have your own ideas, maybe they could be some sort of tulpa. The stories have been going on for so long, enough people have started to believe them that maybe, somehow, they were created. In a later episode, I want to kind of go into that sort of ideal a bit, because I do feel like that is something worth exploring. But back to the Men in Black. Now, I mentioned that a lot of cases where they take hostile measures, intimidation. There have also been incidents where eyewitnesses claim that if they've seen physical entities, like one that comes off to the top of my head is a man who claimed to see humanoid figures walking around that seemed to have regular mouth, nostrils, as well as gills on the side of their neck. He was later approached by an alleged Men in Black who stated that the reason for their appearance is because that particular alien species happened to be on a planet where amphibious traits were favored, essentially. Meaning that they were able to breathe air and breathe through gills because of their environment. Personally, if I just had Men in Black pop up and explain to me what certain types of aliens are, where they're from, that sort of thing, I wouldn't mind that. I love to make contacts with alien species if given the shot. I think there could be a lot learned. I also think it could be a very dangerous situation. Because who knows, a Men in Black might try to shoot me. Now I want to try to analyze some of these stories. Try to get establish some sort of base level of understanding behind them to hopefully try to sort out what's really going on. I stated before that a lot of times, a lot of people try to claim that the government's been hiding information about UFOs all along. Well, yeah, they have. But they have also released declassified documents that essentially state that investigations were inconclusive about their origin. They were just as clueless as us, but they just happened to have more toys and more resources. And they felt that the information of some sort of unknown visitor suddenly being able to enter our airspace and potentially attack us at any given moment could cause widespread panic. And there's going to be some of you that try to argue with me that we are more evolved, we learn more nowadays. Well, look what happened with H.G. Wells and War of the Worlds. Widespread panic, even though at the beginning of the program he announced that it wasn't real. They're afraid of incidents like that. And it's incidents like that why the government decides to keep certain things isolated. Now, could their latest movements to publicize UFO research efforts on their behalf, things they've done to try to look into the UFO phenomenon, yes, that could be very well be their way of trying to allow us to have baby steps to walk into it, essentially allow society to come to the understanding that extraterrestrials are in fact real. They've been around for a very long time. This is their way of walking us through it. Baby steps. But now I want to try to go into the understood sciences about the Men in Black. How certain attributes they possess could very well prove that they may in fact be real. So do stay tuned, my friends. Now, like previous episodes, some of my more scientific explorations into the matters will rely heavily on certain assumptions based on how should I put this? Based on the common factors from each encounter with the Men in Black. Now I'll be sure to keep you guys updated if they happen to show up, because apparently sometimes just talking about them makes them show up. Anyway, we're going to look at some of the common factors behind the Men in Black. And we're going to use these common attributes as our baseline. So, what are we looking at? We are looking at the near 6 foot tall stature, the black suit, black clothes, blah blah blah, their modes of transportation, their overall physical appearance, and their abilities. Alright? Sound good? Okay. Now, under the assumptions that the alien greys species are real. For those of you who don't know, the alien greys are short, humanoid, usually about 4 feet tall tops, 3 to 4 feet tall tops. Big heads, real scrawny bodies, don't seem to communicate a lot verbally, but manage to have enough mind power to communicate telepathically. They also possess the big black eyes and the slit for a mouth, so on and so forth. Some sources believe, loosely translated, depending on how our own environment evolves over time, the alien gray could actually be an image of what our future species would look like. But what would cause that? Usually, species that have large eyes are adapted for nocturnal environments, for nighttime, for dark environments, basically. The bigger eyes allows them to absorb more light and see better in the dark. Their scrawny bodies, their short statures would indicate some sort of lack of resources. In fact, some scientists say that there's a good chance if somehow dinosaurs didn't go completely extinct, to where the only ones that survived later evolved into birds that we see today. To where mammals didn't become essentially the dominant species. We would likely see humanoid-like figures rise. Human-like creatures rise. But, and in fact, a common example is, what was that movie? That Disney movie, The Good Dinosaur, where it shows that really rat-sized looking human. Some sources believe that humans could very well only grow to be at max a couple feet tall if the dinosaurs still existed because of lack of resources. And why I bring up Disney, and wouldn't be surprised if that seemed to be the case, is because Disney has actually been known to bring in scientists, psychologists, so on and so forth, to try to make their movies more legit but also keep it in ways that children would understand. That I have to make that disclaimer, because if they followed scientific discoveries when it came to finding Nemo, let's just say, what was the father's name? Marlin? Yeah, that sounds about right. Marlin would have turned into Marlene. Because, for those of you who don't know, if something happens to a mother clownfish, the father will later become female. But anyway, going back to the Men in Black. So it is possible, if, in the idea of genetic engineering, if this is the case, there are some sort of deep underground labs where genetic experimentation is going on, like, say, Montauk Island. It seems to be a popular one for conspiracy theorists. If they wanted to combine, create some sort of super spy to monitor UFO phenomenon, to be able to understand, they will want people, or individuals I should say, that would understand motivations behind the extraterrestrials, be able to utilize their abilities in case they were ever used against us. All the traits of the Men in Black seem to be where they have no identifying features. They all look as a singular unit, so one cannot pick them out of a lineup, essentially. The cosmetic appearances seem... The appearance of cosmetic products, such as the false eyelashes, the lipstick, seem to be efforts to try to mask that they are not 100% human. If they are human, they have some serious genetic deformities. And I don't want to pick on people that happen to have anything like that. I am not picking on anybody who's disabled. I am just saying, if someone usually appears with those certain type of traits, something didn't click right. Now, the 6-foot-tall appearance could be another intimidation factor. I know a lot of you who are probably, if you see someone that happens to be significantly taller than you, more than 5 inches, let's say, you might get a little intimidated by them at first. Even if they prove to be genuinely nice people, if they were to get upset, you'd probably want to leave the area, right? It's okay. I'm promoting honesty here. You know, I'm 6'7". I see it. I see it. I know. I understand. But nevertheless, the 6-foot-tall stature couldn't very well be another intimidation factor. Something that's tall to where it could intimidate their targets, but not significantly tall enough to where it would draw a lot of attention. Usually a lot of people don't start eyeballing you, you know, guys like me, until we hit about 6'2". So, going off of personal experience there. Their abilities seem to be another thing, though. It's kind of miraculous. I mentioned in previous episodes that if some of the ideas about human evolution and how our brain actually works, and going back to MK Ultra, the mind control experiments, the alleged experiments going on said to increase human brain power that would allow people to summon small objects at their will, or even more successful test subjects were able to teleport. It seems these guys already have that mastery. They have that type of brain power. They are highly intelligent at that. They seem to be able to somehow communicate through telepathic means to one another, but are able to still speak verbally to their targets. And of course, they have to be intelligent in order to handle some of the things that they do. There's no doubt about that. being able to also disappear and reappear, to change your appearances, to affect reality around you at your will. Because some people have even stated, I forgot to mention this, some people have even stated, whenever the men in black seem to appear, clocks stop. I mean, old school clocks, analog clocks, digital clocks just flat out stop working. But yeah, electronics malfunction in their presence as well. And they seem to be they seem to be able to control it at will. These could be intimidation factors as well as isolation. Make sure that you cannot call for help if you were to break free from their spell. That being said, if they have felt the need in order to isolate people like that, there's a good chance that, yes, while it is an intimidation factor, you also have to take into consideration there are people who on this earth right now who possess extraordinary mental capabilities. And they just might be able to override and regain control. So if that were the case, and the subject were to run off and try to call for help, take out the electronics as well. Or take them out as a preemptive strike. Either way, if this shows they have the ability to learn, the ability to think things through, and maybe even see ahead a bit, whether through intuition or because of how certain those abilities work, like we've discussed on previous episodes, seem to rely on some sort of supreme knowledge about quantum mechanics and being able to manipulate said quantum mechanics at their will. They might even be able to see the future slightly. There have been cases where they appear in threes, they appear solo. Sometimes they'll appear, talk to the so-called witness, and go back out, scan the area for something, disappear, then come back later for a follow-up interview, scan the area, then disappear. This is also when these incidents occur, is when the individuals also noticed that they try to avoid microwaves. Either they'll just keep their distance from it, or they'll just flat out say, "Can you please unplug it?" There's also a video that has gone around claiming to show a woman who had reported a UFO sighting being somehow mind-controlled by a Men in Black figure. Mind-controlled to put away the office gun used in the event of burglaries and willingly walk out the door with them. These guys are smart. They know what the hell they're doing. As for that video, it was taken by a security guard at this location. I'm going to try to have to dig it up, and we'll try. And if I do manage to find it again, I'll be sure to try to sneak it into the episode description, so be on the lookout for that, my friends. But if it could very well be the case, this also shows that they have high intelligence, scary high intelligence. Are they human? They may be what happens in the next stage of evolution. The large eyes, like I said, could be the result of nocturnal environments. They had to see in the dark. And if you're dealing with UFOs that may not appear in the visible spectrum, that somehow be able to cloak themselves, being able to see into other forms of light would be very helpful. But I'm afraid we're running out of time. I want to hear your thoughts on the matter. What do you think the Men in Black are? I want to hear your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Drop them below in the comments. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I will see you next time. Do please tune in this Wednesday for another episode of Dakota's Declassified. I will see you next time, my friends. Later.